Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Cerebral Palsy and Fitness podcast. I'm here with Wanda Davis. She's a personal growth coach, a speaker, and an author of Head to Heart. Welcome, Wanda.
Hello, glad to be here today, David.
I am so intrigued about you as I read a bit about you, and I wanted to kind of start out with a little bit about your background. How did you pursue becoming an author and a speaker and a personal growth coach?
Well, that's like a loaded question, it seems. A lot of history there. Um, well, I guess I can start from the beginning. I actually went to school for science. So I have a Bachelor of Science degree, a Master's of Science degree. So I actually started my first career was actually working in a research lab at a university. So doing research that way. So kind of the scientific minded part. Kind of got bored of that, decided to go into teaching, thinking I was going to teach science, but I decided I did not want to teach science.
Oh,
That I felt I was overloading the kids too much. So what I started doing more was working in the support role. So usually as a learning support teacher, or I've been also a vision teacher, helping students who have low vision teach them Braille.
awesome.
So kind of working in that type of support role, helping kids. Um, and actually, I've kind of moved away. I've kind of officially retired from teaching now. So, and kind of along the side of what I've been doing for the last 15 years now is my own business. So, in my own business, it started out as energy healing. So, I am a Reiki master teacher, do all sorts of different types of energy work. And originally, we can get into that a little bit because it was mostly for myself originally. From there, it was also kind of just that learning that, okay, I've written different things. I've been co-authors on different books kind of along the way. But then it was part of my own healing was writing this children's story. So from head to heart, it starts out a little bit about my own story. It's all about a little girl who was bullied.
Oh
And
no.
so with that trauma of being bullied, what she does is she builds a wall around herself. And so the book is really about her journey afterwards of kind of going from, behind this wall and withdrawing from everything around her, whatever the trauma happens to being able to ask for help. So the order, and then being able to ask for help
Right.
for whoever that could help her. In this case, kind of asking people to help her take down the wall,
Right. And,
and then having that journey of being able to live with the vibrancy of life again.
right. It's what I was gonna mention is bullying is so prevalent nowadays, especially now with the emergence of social media and the kids
Yeah.
getting on social media. And I used to work as an assistant teacher with middle school students, and I would
Yes.
see it every day. Come in the
Yeah.
classroom, horse playing, cussing, pushing each other, all kinds of stuff, and it's disheartening, but then you have to realize it's all about the environment they grow up in, and who they hang
Yes.
out with. And myself being disabled, being physically disabled, it's funny because when I started teaching, my mom was in her 20th year, my stepmom, and she's like, "Are you sure about this? They're gonna eat you alive." And I'm like, "I know this is my calling. I've
Yeah.
always advocated for myself, and you've always taught me to teach kids and to help people, and so this is my calling." And so I went in um my first year, and I got nothing but positivity from teachers, from students. No one's ever really challenged me, and it's
Nice.
I'm grateful. And as I mentioned about the bullying, that's where ourselves, you and I, come in and try to be as positive and supportive to that student as possible, whether finding resources, reaching out to parents if they're supportive. Um, I work as a youth advocate now, so I work with at-risk students, and that's key. The key is to be able to reach out, and if you can, advocate for your student, which I'm sure you've done multiple times while you were in your
Mhm.
career.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also kind of getting them to understand the fact that they're worthy as well, right?
Right. Yes.
So for them not to believe, oh, say the taunts and the things that people are teasing them about is not really them, right? There's more to them than whatever people may be bullying at them about. So, it's that building up their self-worth as well.
Like the self-esteem.
Self-esteem, exactly. Yeah, it's like the book, I wrote it as a children's book, but really it's a book for all ages. Because I think even say the parent or grandparent, whoever is reading the book to a child, can get so much out of it as well. Because the trauma doesn't have to be just bullying either. The trauma can
Right.
be anything else that perhaps has been experienced, whether it's a pandemic or, grief or whatever it happens to be. And and I think part of my journey was also that fact of, being bullied for not necessarily being physically able either,
Wow.
right? So,
Right.
because I've had my physical issues as well.
So, what would you say I guess the main idea or the main theme of the book is when they read through it and they're like, "Huh, what would they what would they get out of the book? Like, what would they learn as a whole when they read the book completely?"
It has so many different levels to it. So, the one thing I say it's that fact of not living in your head. So the idea of the from the head part is the living in your head, trying to control everything, trying to make things work the way that you think they should work. Whereas if you're living through the heart,
Right.
being able to um, pick up and be aware of opportunities that come your way, being able to live your life. And, that's the whole idea of being in the flow, right?
Right.
So being able to live your life from through the heart rather than just trying to control it in a certain particular way. Yeah. And it's also that's that theme of asking for help, that it's okay to ask for help.
It is okay, and I can't stress this enough with my students. I'm like, it's okay to ask for help, and they're like, but Mr. David, I don't want to ask for help because I feel it's a burden. I'm like, I don't I'm not here to just sit here and watch you struggle. I'm here to help you. And
Yeah.
and of course I step back. I'm like, whenever you need help, I'm here. And then five minutes later, he's like, Mr. David, I need help. I'm like, there you go. Right?
There. And it's not necessarily just the physical help as well, right? And
Yeah.
so it's help emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful feeling. And I love the idea and the concept of the book itself. Like I wish there was more books like that out there, which I'm sure they are, but especially in today's society, it's critical. It's more important to have books like that and resources like that available.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I want to try to get it into as many schools as I can or hands of teachers that I can, because, of course, that's where they can at least have those great discussions within the classroom too. But also, I'm going to be promoting it as family workshops so that,
Awesome.
helping the parents have that conversation with their kids as well.
Are you are you like published in Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Kindle yet?
Um, so in the United States, it's available on Amazon.com. In
Okay.
Canada, it's available at the Indigo Chapters website.
That's awesome. So they're
You
able
go to my
to
website and I can mail it to you as well. So wandadavis.ca.
awesome, awesome. And you mentioned being in the flow. Is that your motto, or is that something that you kind of came up with at
It's
some
one of
point?
the topics that I speak about as well, because we didn't kind of get into the speaker part as well, but um, I guess that was also part of my business is going out and speaking on different topics. Well, being in the flow, that's that, being able to really just kind of take that breath and feel and understand. It's like, okay, what should I be doing? What could I be doing? Where can I be of service? How can I help myself? So it's that, kind of not necessarily meditating perhaps, but just being in that state where you're being aware of all the opportunities that are coming your way, and
Right.
kind of avoiding the ones that don't have, and I also talk about energy, right? They don't have
Right.
the energy that matches that what you're looking for, but jumping into the opportunities that do have that energy that flows for you.
That's awesome. It's almost like, think about it, meditation. You know how you
Mhm.
meditate and you try to find a way to relax away from just the negativity and the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and you just take a minute, you breathe in, you breathe out, you stretch out your body and you close your eyes and you think about things that make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, you're getting out of your head, right? But you're getting more into your own heart, which you can also be kind of in terms of also um, being aware of your own body as well, right? So being able to kind of just that going within and seeing what your body or your mind has to say to you as well.
Right, listen to your body. It's always important, especially if you're in pain, or not just physically but emotionally,
Mhm.
spiritually.
Yeah,
um
and it's all
uh,
going to affect the other, right? So,
right, yeah, it affects everybody differently.
hmm
We deal with a lot of emotions every day, being that
hmm
we're out in society, seeing things.
yeah, and all part of it too is being able to not necessarily deal with the emotions, but to at least be aware of the emotions, feeling the emotions instead of ignoring them. Because if you're just ignoring emotions, like emotions are energy and they can get stored somewhere in your body as well, which can cause pain. So it's like, you don't want to be able to essentially put those emotions under the rug somewhere.
Yeah, it's not good to bottle up things, and I've had students that tend to bottle stuff up, and I'm like, it's not worth it. You're just gonna get worse and worse and worse, and eventually you're gonna pop off. And I've had students pop off this year, and it's not a good feeling for them, and for the parent, and for ourselves being advocates, and they're
hmm
struggling, and you're trying to find any way that you can to help them, and yeah, and but at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
and
once.
part of it
Yeah.
too is they have to become aware of being able to help themselves as well.
Right. It all starts with, I always remind them, it all starts with you. You have to want
Yeah,
the help, and you have to want to change before we can help you. We can guide you to that
because
change.
there's that difference of whether it's being reactive or actually being able to respond to something. So, it's that whole idea about just taking
Yep.
responsibility to respond to something rather than just stay in reaction the whole time.
Yeah, and so far they've been doing better this year, as far as being, um proactive, and getting out and just speaking about things and getting out there, and slowly but surely, they'll be self-sufficient in no time, being able to do
Mhm.
things on their own.
That's just it, step at a time, right?
Yep. And I wanted to ask you, so you said you've also written other books as well?
They've been more collaborative efforts, usually more in the self-help type of
Okay.
realm. Yeah.
Do you have
Well,
a
one thing I
favorite?
didn't get into, I was going to get into was my background about scoliosis.
Okay, yeah.
So
Yeah, I
kind of
saw
this
this
is kind of
myself.
what yeah, so this is what got me onto kind of that path of self-growth and kind of into doing my business and everything as well. So actually I have scoliosis. For people who don't know that, that's when it's the twisting of the spine.
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed as an early teen and it was already fairly progressed and twisted. So the idea that I had surgery when I was 16. So I have instrumentation, so two metal rods along my side of my spine. And so, so that was kind of what part of my journey has been about too, was, you know, as well as I'm sure it is for yourself too. It's like you're in a body that doesn't necessarily work as well as maybe somebody else's. And
Right.
it's like, what can you do with that? So it's like, instead of being in that mode of, why is this happening to me, about more, what is this here to teach me about, and how can I respond to it?
Right. You have to like I always usually say is adapt, improvise, and overcome. I mean, you may face an obstacle physically, mentally, or emotionally, but it doesn't have to stop you from living a good quality of life.
Exactly. And the fact that you always have the choices.
You
So it
do.
comes down to, what choices are you making? And, you want to make sure that you're making good choices for yourself, especially if
Right.
they're going to involve, that personal growth factor in it.
Yeah, it's personal growth is key to everything in life. You know, if you're not willing to grow, nothing happens. Or
Exactly.
learn, or learn
You're
from your
stuck
mistakes.
somewhere, right? Yeah, yeah. And that's just it. Like, I think a lot of people that have especially physical issues, physical challenges, the idea that sometimes they can get stuck in that spot where they're not willing to do anything for themselves. So the
Right.
whole idea of, making those choices, of being able to do things for yourself, to be able to show what you are capable of doing in other ways, right?
Right. I mean, it's once everybody sees what kinds of abilities you do have, it outweighs the limitations you do have.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Because I'm pretty sure you and I, what we have in common is we have this limitation that people might say, you can't do this, you can't do that, but we ourselves take the time to break that barrier, break that glass ceiling,
Hmm.
and just pursue all these goals and accomplish them, and people see us as human. At the end of the day, we're all human, regardless of whether we have a physical, mental, or any kind of disability or impairment. We're still human.
Hmm. Yeah, and part of my challenge too is my physical challenges aren't necessarily visible, right? Because it's more
Right.
of the chronic pain or the weakness, or, my disability is more down that path. So people wouldn't necessarily recognize, they expect me to be able to do something, and it's like, sorry, I can't. And then it's
Right.
like, well, why not? Well, I can't.
Speaking
So,
about that, have you ever, I don't know if you use one, but I use a parking placard. But it's so funny how I've seen people with invisible disabilities, and I don't know what it is, but they get shunned for no reason. Whenever they park in the parking spot,
yeah.
and you may not see it, visible, but you can see that they're in pain, and the chronic pain.
Hmm.
And then they're like, "Oh, you're just pretending to park there, pretend to be disabled, but you don't know what their story is. Why are you judging them,
Exactly. Yeah. See, I'm not quite at that point yet, but one day I probably will be. Just, I kind of look at it, it's like, it's now the time in order to apply for something like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, a lot of people don't necessarily have their disabilities that are visible. And so being able to treat everybody positive, in a positive manner, is something that's, yeah, something that we need to be able to do, to respect one another as well, right?
Exactly, and to be able to come in with an open mind to learn about what they
Yeah.
have. If
And
you're
it's
if
like
you're that
being
kind of friend,
able to learn this at a young age as well, right? So,
right?
like, necessarily, I did not really kind of get into the personal growth area until I was, into my late 40s, going into my 50s. So, the whole idea of, wanting to be able to get out there and talk to people about it, so that younger people can understand that, how they can switch things around by taking responsibility for things.
Right.
Because I have to admit, I probably drank a lot of alcohol in my, 20s and 30s, to, counteract the chronic pain that I have.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's pretty rough, especially when you're in chronic pain and you try to find a crutch, and sometimes that crutch might not be the best, but it's helping you, but eventually you'll kind of wean out of it and you're like, you know what? This might help, but it's only temporary. It's only
Yeah,
temporary.
well, or
And
it's being able to find something that can help you that's more healthy for you too,
yeah,
right?
it's temporary, and and it causes more harm than good. But I'm glad you've been able to find something that really helps you, that's healthy, as you got
Mhm.
older.
And it was more the energy work that originally, that's where the energy work first came in, was being able to use the energy work in order to help the pain levels. And so that's why I originally kind of went down the energy working path. But then it's like something else kind of also became aware of was that doing energy work, you're not necessarily just working on the physical level, right? You're
Right.
also helping heal the mental, emotional, spiritual levels as well, realizing that it's all part of the puzzle.
Yep. That's how, it's all, you said it perfectly. It's all part of a puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. What can we learn from these things as we, figure out how to make things fit better, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's you just have to take it day by day, piece by piece. Take your like I said, take your time with everything. Don't rush. Like you mentioned to me um yesterday, you're not a big rusher. I'm the same way. I don't like rushing,
Yeah.
through things. I like to take my time with it.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's more when you sit with something as well. That's when you're going to learn something. What is it here to teach me? Right. So,
Right.
if you take your time with something and sit with something for a bit, try to figure out what's the information that's going to come through about that. How will it fit in with your life? Right. How will it fit into that puzzle?
And then also the key to really being successful with all these challenges is to be patient, to be flexible,
Hmm.
to be willing to work with the person. Um I love working with people. Like I tell people, the times when I'm doing things like, podcasting or not, I always try to find a time for everybody. Those times that I give people are just times that are kind of tentative, that I'm usually doing podcasting, but I'm willing to work with them and, you know, talk to them at a certain time that they need to, that they feel comfortable, make the appropriate accommodations that they might need, and just be
Yeah. And there's
patient
the
with them.
coach and teacher in you as well. Right. So
Yep. It pays
being
off.
able to help people help themselves along the way. So,
It pays off, and I'm glad that you were here on today, and I feel like we had a really wonderful conversation.
yeah, no, I think it was, we're quite kind of little peas in the pod that way.
Yeah, and could you remind the listeners about your website and about your book? Where can
Yeah,
they
thank you.
find?
Yeah. So again, my name's Wanda Davis. My website is wandadavis.ca because I'm in Canada. So I live in London, Ontario. So yeah, so my book again is available on Amazon.com, or you can actually contact me through my website, wandadavis.ca is my email. And I can actually ship it directly to you as well with shipping charges. Or if you're in Canada, you can get it from the Chapters Indigo website. So
Us?
many different ways of getting it. But, and as I said too, I'm a speaker, so I'm quite willing to speak to audiences, whether they're
Yes.
virtual or in person. So if you have any other places that I might be a good fit for speaking at, yeah, I welcome any
Yes.
information that way.
If you're listening to this podcast right now, if you're looking for a speaker, Wanda is wonderful. So definitely book her. I'll send out information, contacts, anything you guys need. Wanda's available. She's been a wonderful guest. Thank you, Wanda. And I will put all your information in the description so that people can view your website. If you're interested in the book, the link to the book will also be there. And this podcast will be on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube and every other podcasting outlet out there. And I, I just want to say, hope everyone has a happy, healthy, and safe 2023. And until next time.
Thank you very much for having me.